Well, good day, Reverend, and how you doing, sir? Yeah, good Lord, it's me again. We were John C. Roseman, California. A diary of the griever named John Weaver, which is B. 12:41 p.m. It's still the 29th of May, 2024 for a Wednesday. And yes, I just got off for your chat. I'm grateful for these chats, I really am. I can hear a few things that I still need to work on. Yeah, looks like Edwards Air Force Base is at it again. Every so often scares the living daylights out of people out here in the Antelope Valley. So what happens when you have Plant 42 and then you have Edwards Air Force Base? Reverend, shall we consult a good book of the Google Maps? We shall not be praying to the almighty maps, nor shall we be praying to the almighty Google, which does the maps. But we shall advise unto you to put into the search engine of Rosamond, California. That's Rosamond, California. And we will guide you in this useless trip of geography and topography and anything else for that matter. Okay, so when you're looking at Rosamond, California, and you'll see this nice, lovely freeway called the 14th, just going straight through the damn town. On the east side, which will be on the right-hand side, if you are looking for north being the top and south being the bottom, west being the left, and east being the right. If you have it under layers or just under street map, you probably won't be seeing the base as much, but you'll probably be seeing some of the barriers. So it's suggestible to be putting it onto satellite viewpoint. And then if you would just allow that to process till you get the nice layout of the landscape here, and kind of scroll it until you see the town getting smaller and smaller. So just maneuver your mouse right there. And then you see this desert, flat, yellowish area. My computer is still giving me problems, about normal. And you'll see what they call the Rosamond Dry Lake Bed. But part of that lake bed has a road going all the way towards the east. So kind of scroll it until you move and see this desert going from right to left. And then you'll see all the sound effects coming from in the Antelope Valley, Edwards Air Force Base. At one time, back from the 1980s all the way through the 2000s, last I think 2005, somewhere in that time zone. We actually had about 30 years, maybe a lot longer than that. I think so. Yeah, about 2012 or 13. The Space Transportation System, otherwise called the Space Shuttle Program. Testing and flying constantly over at the Edwards base on the dry lake bed, not of Rosamond, but on their own base. And at times they would have the shuttle land over there, but if not that, over at NASA in Florida. But we have an active air base out here that does all the testing of the aircraft we have. If that wasn't bad enough, I mean, they do the all the supersonic stuff over at Edwards. But testing out the heavy duty equipment, as in the transports and the heavy duty bombers and the stealth bombers coming in, I am going to ask of you to scroll on down. You're going to be moving the desert scene up. Well, you're going to be maneuvering that lovely mouse until you get to the area where it says Palmdale, the Lancaster area. Because I want to show you And we actually have an air base out there somewhere in that mess. Well, it is a mess because in that area is where we actually have all the aircraft landing and not landing. And it's on the border between Lancaster and Palmdale. You'll see the strip going from east to west, and then there's a diagonal going from the southwest to the northeast. That kind of level. She must be obeyed as up. This is where we get all the aircraft testing of their systems, of all the flybys and the touch and goes. They're not the ones we have to worry about concerning about the booms all the time, because we get the booms over there, over at Edwards Air Force Base. So you heard that in the background. That's what's happening these days. So other than that, I was trying to keep up with the sermons that were happening and the things that we were noticing these days. And yeah, I did make some of the jokes concerning about the end of days, the days of days. We would talk about Revelation, Ragnarok, the rapture. People are having conniption fits over this. Once in a while, I'll see something about that on YouTube, picking up left and right. Not much so on Facebook. I finally found your Facebook picture, and I had to throw in your YouTube address that got me locked into the Facebook page. So I did that. So I got you in there. So at least hopefully I won't bury you alive as much with the videos. I used to be a fast typist. No wonder I killed my wrists. No joke. No joke. Hell, I've been on a keyboard since I was a teenager. Going through junior high, and they got those monsters, the manual monsters, the big monsters, and with the middle keys, and you're supposed to be rapid about the damn thing. I'm doing this thing over here, and I'm constantly getting glares from the junior high teacher, Mrs. Baker, on that one. Good Lord, he was a mad typist, but she was teaching how to be a mad typist. Only when we got into the IBM Selectric monsters, I was actually able to use those things. And lots of whiteout. Lots of whiteout. And whiteout paper. Get me out a computer keyboard, and I was just like a speed demon. Just especially if it's retail and they use the standard keyboards. Almost similar. Configuration's a little different, but they would use these things similar. But there'd be different function buttons over here of what we need to do to rank things up. But still, I would just got to a point where I had repetitive motion. Thank God I didn't have carpal, otherwise I'd be having surgery, and I'd really be having scars on here. No, but I had to wear a wrist brace for a few decades. So, but it was necessary for me to hear what was going on, and I did put a link in there concerning about Robert Harold Schuler. Hour of Power. In the local markets, he was doing either Channel 9, Channel 11, or Channel 13. One of those two. I think it was Channel 9. KKL. Or Metro Media, one of those two. Not until he started getting his international back in the 70s. And he started getting donations for his masterpiece, the Crystal Cathedral. Okay, don't put away Google Maps, okay? Yes, you can see where this one's going from. I want to show you something. Crystal Cathedral. It's on Chapman Avenue in Garden Grove, California. I want to show you this monster. It's been taken over by the Catholic Church over a decade ago. Apparently, our Power Ministries have been having a falling out over the past 20 years. Eh, Since Senior had passed away, Junior tried to take over. And he's got his own ministries going on. But I wanted to show you the campus here. When you see this big monster here, keep this in mind that most of that used to be housing, and it used to be a drive-in theater. Actually, basically a drive-in theater out there that Reverend Schuler would actually do his church sermons before he got into his own building. And I want you, I'm asking Reverend, not forcing on this. If you would scroll a little closer on this, just get that search engine out of the way. Just hit the X on that one, and maneuver the entire property in center screen. Okay, you got that? Good. Okay, some buildings are pretty new over the past 20 or 30 years, but this other one's been there a lot longer than that, and it was the original one. Because this was the building that everybody would watch the Hour of Para Ministries on. This would be it. Okay, you're looking at north side. Top is north, bottom is south, west is left, and east is right. Okay, you see that there's like a curve on some gravel or something like that. And down below a little bit is the actual church building that Reverend Schuler would use. And at one time, he did. Okay, I was trying to. Oh, where's that? Where was that at? Wait a second, that's the one. That's the one. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's the building down below the Crystal Cathedral. Okay. They really modified and built this thing to a point where I didn't even recognize it at the time. I mean, it's been a lot of changes over the past 45 years. But this was one of the buildings that actually would have a sliding glass partition and a balcony, an alcove, where he would go outside. Mezzanine, would you call it? Something. And he would preach to the people outside. The fountains would still be there, but it's on the south side of the building facing west. And that would be before they built the structure right in front of it. A large enough parking lot where you would see cars parked and watching this and listening to it, probably on their radios or listening to him coming out. And he wanted to have a big, huge cathedral. I'm not quite sure if I talked to you about this one or not. To have his sermons inside. Because there have been some days that there actually would have been rain. Kind of would have been impossible for him to go out there in his robes and getting soaked all the time, or let alone getting close to being soaked. So he wanted something indoors. But I tell you something, watching this thing, I mean, looking at the whole thing when I was there, this was breathtaking. Because I'd be watching these series of Hour of Power all the time, and I was getting a lot of stuff, because if I wasn't going out to the church, First United Methodist Church in North Hollywood, will go there second. This would be the church I'd be watching. I'd be watching it with my grandmother and my aunt when they were alive during those days. And I'd be sending letters and maybe a dollar or two donation over to the Reverend. He'd have some kind of weird tchotchke, and I'd try to get one. Letter opener, a cup, Christmas decorations. He has some exquisite Christmas decorations. And I used them a great deal on Christmas trees I decorated throughout the years. And then unfortunately things happened where those things had to, some of them had to be disappeared. Yeah, that hurt too. And I liked the stuff. Really did. I also read his books. The Be Happy Attitude, I kept reading it like crazy. And then there was Norman Vincent Peale, Power of Positive Thinking. Norman Vincent Peale was a mentor to Reverend Schuller. And I'd listened and I'd watched these shows, and they made a difference to a young, growing mind. But I rarely got out to Garden Grove with the family. There was a few times we actually did attend church, but it's a long distance, Garden Grove to the San Fernando Valley. Dude, we're talking about 100 miles or more. Yeah, that used up a lot of gas right there. Not to mention trying to find a nearby gas station to get back home. Now, I am going to ask for you to type in, if you will, please, kind sir. First United Methodist Church. Okay, hang on. Methodist. There are a lot of them. Of North Hollywood. Or some of us called it Hollyweird. Okay, you're going to see another thing popping up over here, Reverend. You're going to see a large freeway section of 170 Hollywood. If I can ask for you to hit the X on the search engine, then if you can maneuver the screen where you see this red brick roof of a building right next to the freeway. And if you could, get a little closer on this one. Now, there should be something popping up saying Tahunga Avenue and then Hollywood Freeway, and then in tiny lettering, First United Methodist Church of North Hollywood. Without some of the extra buildings to it, this was home. This was home. And there's supposed to be a 365-degree image of this place. When the search engine comes up, I mean, if you can click on one of the buildings over there, I just clicked on the main chapel. And it's the main sanctuary, actually, not the Boyer's Chapel, but the main sanctuary. And there's a little 365-degree picture, a little icon on that one. I showed you outside before. I show you some of the sanctuary in it. But it's going to show me the 365-degree from street. And I was home. Picture was taken a few years ago. My family started going out there in the early 70s. We're looking for a church to call home. I got baptized Christian and became part of the church. I've known some good pastors, assistant ministers, lay ministers. This was home. This was home. Hell of a neighborhood to grow up in and around, you know. I moved out of the valley in 2005. I hadn't been back there since Ma died back in 2013. But this was home. Get out of the 365. There should have been photographs. There should have been photographs of this place. I know they got their own website. And I would look at the place all the time. Since moving away because it was home. It was home. It's a grand place to live. Actually, to go to church in, I'll tell you that much. Old, over 100 years, I think. Just about. I think it was built back in 1929. Survived the 1971 Sylmar. And survived the 1994 Northridge quakes. If you happen to go to on Facebook, whenever you get a chance, type in the First United Methodist Church, North Hollywood, and it may give you a little bit more, give you some acronyms for it. And I'll have a current minister I've never met before, but there should be some pictures of what the chapel looks like, what the sanctuary looked like. Good Lord, it was grandiose. Good Lord, it was grandiose. It was home. It was home. I had a few pictures, but they still got some pictures on the website regarding this place. This was so much home. I just wanted to do a Yahoo search on it. Oh, God. They're showing the empty church just to get an atmospheric feel of it. But this was a place that I called home for a long period of time. They have one particular picture from the NoHoArtsDistrict.com. And you're showing from the upper back pews when you go through the main entrance outside of the church. And you have staircases on the right hand side that leads up to the upper pew. And they're basically raised. And you can see the chandeliers hanging. And you would see the lights go, and you'd see sunlight going through the windows. All the stained glass windows. All the apostles. They would have the apostles in those windows. And then at the forefront of it, at the way end of it, where the church choir would be on either left, mostly on the left side. If there was an overflow, it would be on the right hand side. But if we actually managed to get that many singers, it was pews that are old, ancient, still reconditioned. They had to do it every so often to make sure the paddings were replaced and carpet cleaned and replaced. But some of the wooden craftsmanship in there, you couldn't find anywhere else. And at the front, where the stairs began, they would do the communion. The baptismal urn that they had. It was on the left-hand side, right by the assistant pastor over there. It's up in the church choir areas. I discovered I am sharp, flat, and neutral. And I remember them. I may have forgotten names, but I remembered them. And it was a time in my life as an adult when my brother and I did about almost a year and a half of church choir duty while we were still living in the San Fernando Valley at the time. There would be pastors in that area that would either put you to sleep or they actually would rock you. I was assistant minister Bob Hillman and his family from New Zealand. You talk about dynamic energy out of these guys. And John Nagel would put people to sleep, but he had a good heart. His sermons would put you to sleep. The voice was monotone. But there was also another guy named Pastor Joey. God rest his soul. He was a decent man. He died of a heart attack, I think, in his office. Shocked the church. Didn't hear about it until years afterwards. Not after my family moved out of the valley, and then no one knew, and we never came back to the place. Wish we had. I mean, they can change the congregation around, but I'll tell you, some of the ghosts are still over there. And I would see the ghost of my grandmother and aunt just looking at one particular picture, just of the empty place. My family would sit about the third row up close, third or fourth row up close, closer to the aisle. I've had memories. It's one thing when you got older and volunteering for the church choir just to be part of it still. Yeah. And it was something. And I was just singing for the fun of it. I was singing because I couldn't put a word, I couldn't put a label to it. My brother and I would be sitting in the back row watching a guy named Dennis Parnell. My brother didn't exactly get along with Dennis, unfortunately, sometimes, but a few people we tried. A lot of them we grew up with. I'd listen for the bass. My brother would be doing the bass sometimes. I'd follow him if I could. And we had Dennis work in the bass section like crazy. And we had a mad organist out there. I think he'd been there since the church was created, I think. I don't know. Harold was his name. I call him the mad organist because he could play those pipes. He could play those pipes, Rap. I look at the picture, and I know we're not supposed to be focusing on the past. I can't help it. Because sometimes looking at the stuff, I look at the stuff I've lost. It's not the physical trappings, it was the memories. It was things going on in that place. I went through church school in that place. I became part of the church, going through lessons after lessons. My brother became an usher in it. Oh, he was 8 years older than I was. I'd sit in with Grandma and Aunt May and Ma, and David would be ushering with a few others. I think at one time I also volunteered when I was an adult as well. When it became Easter, they made the red lilies all over the place. No, no, I'm sorry, that was the Poincianas. That's Christmas. It's the white lilies. But they would also put up a white rose for those who passed. And one time they had it for Aunt May, and then Grandma, and then Ma, and I, and for David as well. But this was the sanctuary I grew up in. It's made a difference in my life, Reverend. I still have the Bible that I got from the church. I know we're not supposed to hold on to physical trappings as much. And we're supposed to be holding on to what means more to us. It's not the physical, it's what I had gone through, the experiences, the memories that people had been with. It's them I miss. We had one family helping out my brother when he became homeless. And we've known him for a long time. My brother became friends with their son, who ADHD or something like that. He also smoked real fast. He got himself into so much trouble with the law. My brother tried to stay away from the guy sometimes. Like he'd get my brother roped into some stuff. He just couldn't stay out of trouble as much. Steve Farron. Mickey and Don Farron. The parents. Sometimes they would come over, I think. Not often enough to the house to see Grandma and Aunt May. Sorry, Rev. Taking up too much of your time. She must be obeyed. I'd take care of my dog. Well, I'll talk at you later, Reverend.